Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Amar with ZenMaid. And today we are going to chat about I guess, almost like a side comment or like a side conversation. I don't remember if it happened while we were recording
Yep,
last week or if it
was
was before that was. Okay, yeah. Is Jeremy had said something about having his team always act in the best interest of the company or think about acting in the best interest of the company. And I had said that I have my team always think about acting in the best interest of the customer. And so we just thought that was an interesting potential dichotomy. We're not really sure where this conversation's gonna go, but we thought it'd be an interesting topic to explore.
I used it. I read, No Rules, the culture of Netflix, and one of the guiding line and guiding principle they give when people needs to make decision about their holidays, about, should I get that travel expense refunded? Should I pay for myself? All those sort of like questions, even to, should I go and do some PR and all those sort of thing was always like act in Netflix best interest. And so that's basically what I teach my team is like act in QuickMail's best interest. Like if you have questions about like, should we do X or Y, then just act in QuickMail's best interest. And then you mentioned something in one of our past episodes about like always tell my team to do what's best for the customer. And I was like, that's interesting. Is that it's sort of like stroke a chord, right? As in like, I hear something right. So what's the difference between what I'm saying and what he's saying,
Yeah.
Because you don't hear Netflix saying like act in your viewers' best interest. It's always act in a company's
Well,
best interest. But maybe it depends
but
on the type of work, right? But
well, yeah, because
still.
all the examples that you gave were essentially around like perks and stuff that have nothing to do with the users, right? Like
True.
when they were saying that in the book of like, oh, like, should I fly first class or
Yeah.
should I save money and fly economy? That has nothing to do with the user. So in that sense, you do
Nobody
want to be
could.
acting.
You could still
Well,
say act in your client's best interest. Is the client best interest that you take first class or second class, right?
well, yeah, but yeah, I guess
Maybe it's
I could
stretching
see
it. I don't know.
I could see that, but it is stretching it. And that point, like the user doesn't care whether you fly first class or business class. The only argument that you could make there is like, you could save money and then give that money to the user, right? So I don't know how helpful that is, but for us, because we're both running such small organizations, pretty much everyone on our team is customer facing in some way, right? Or is touching the customer in some way. Maybe not necessarily customer facing, but everything that the developers do impacts your customers directly. And so I feel like at this size, having the act in the customer's best interest is a very good way to go about it. I also think that's something that makes Amazon special, that Amazon runs over companies, they run over like their employees, right? They run over each other. It's a
That
very
is true.
cutthroat culture, but everything comes down to how do we ship the fastest? How do we make the user experience as good as humanly possible? And so one other kind of big thing here that I think is also like a difference is that I don't expect my team to know about the actual business. That my goal with my team is to allow them to be specialized in their area of like expertise and to help them to understand how they help the business win and how they can help our users like the most. But I don't expect them to be able to differentiate between like what's best for ZenMaid and like versus like what's not, particularly in, I don't know, I guess like there's quite a few situations where they just don't have, the bird's eye level view that we have. And
Sure,
so
of
I
course.
always think that for them, it's easier. They're always thinking about the customer. So like I give them that as the guiding principle. And then I'm essentially responsible for coming in and being like, okay, this might be in the best interest of the customer, but we can't do it because X, Y, Z. We can't make the software 100% free because X, Y, Z,
Yeah,
right?
this is usually often the conversation that goes around like, oh, if there was really for the user, you'll make it free. It's like, yeah, but is it in the best interest of the user that we go bankrupt in 2 months? You know what I mean?
That's a very good point.
It's
Yeah.
like, mm,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it. Hey, there's an interesting comment that you made about like Amazon being very cutthroat and so on, but get it right when it comes to their customers. I recommended to my a few of my team members to start reading Working Backwards. because
Mhm.
even though it is a very dry book and I think boring to read as hell, there's some really amazing ideas inside that could really be beneficial applied to QuickMail. And so I'm
Yeah.
like looking into that. We are looking specifically in doing the sort of like 3-pager in order to define an idea and stuff like. We're experimenting
Mhm.
and starting with that slowly. But at some point during one of our 101, one person actually mentioned that, hey, but it's nice we're trying to be a bit more like Amazon because they got like amazing results and so on. But I'm like not afraid, it's probably the wrong word, but how do you place that with taking care of people, and then
Mhm.
like, are we actually going like fully that direction, or is there like balance somewhere and so on? And I thought that was interesting, and we're going to discuss into one of our culture meeting. I think it's one of the
Mhm.
open loop that we are going to address in one of the culture meeting, where we're basically going to discuss that, what it means for people and how we treat people and so on. Because
Mhm.
obviously I don't want to go to that extreme either. It's like I don't
Yeah.
think that's nice. Otherwise, well, it's probably not enjoyable. I like to win with people, not with robots.
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah.
but that was an interesting point. And so, Amazon is all about the user at the expense of their employee. And of course, I don't think especially you, I mean, me too, but I think especially, your focus and so on, this is definitely not a direction you would want to go,
Yeah.
right? I know it's not a direction I want to go either. So when we put, the focus on, it's like, maybe we could say there are 3 different stakeholder in a sense, like they are the company, they are the employees, and then there are the clients,
Mhm.
right? Like a
Yeah.
triangle stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's very clear that Enron puts everything towards toward the company, like
Mhm.
with those acting integrity and so on, and then after that it's
Yeah.
this sort of like catastrophe. Amazon is very much into the clients,
Mhm.
and the company. I was like,
Yeah.
if you get to pick only 2, which one do you pick?
Yeah. It's an
It's
interesting
tough, huh?
one.
I don't
Yeah,
know
it
which one is
is.
best,
Yeah,
honestly.
it is. It is.
All
Well,
3 are important.
what I do is well, yeah, I mean, it's just like on what sort of like spectrum, because to me it's company, or it's employees, company, clients
Yeah.
is actually the order that I would go with, because I don't think that you're going to have happy clients unless you first have happy employees. But of course, Amazon is very much like a counterexample to that. But it's also because nobody cares who works at Amazon. Like, their service doesn't, like, it does, like, they don't need the people to differentiate themselves, right? Whereas like for us, like, everyone works directly with our support team. Like, we have a lot of faces to the business and all of that stuff. um yeah, so I think that that's definitely something that factors into it. One thing I was thinking that's kind of a little detail here is Amazon seems to always do what's best for the customer. So the customer didn't have a good experience, they're asking for a refund or whatever. Amazon will just issue the refund, kind of no questions, like no questions asked, right? And they're
Yeah.
very good about that. That creates a very, very good user experience. Well, they also have the luxury of doing that because they can just lose money for 15 years and just be valued higher and higher. And then I think they started turning a profit maybe in like 2017 or 2018. Whereas as a bootstrap company, we can't do that. So my guide is always, it is do what's best for the user, but it's more do what's best for the users. And there's a very big difference between those two. That someone comes in and goes, hey, I'm not happy, I want a refund for all 12 months that I've been with you. The answer is no. I don't
Yeah.
care that you don't like the software anymore. I'm not giving you that money back. I'll refund your last month because that's fair. But that's one where it's very much like, if you do what's like, if you did this for every single user, we'd be out of business. So you can't do this because it's not what's in the best interest of the users. It's not what's in the best interest of the company. And just because it's in the best interest of like this one user does not mean that we take that action. And so, it's kind of a guiding principle for us that there are a lot of times where we go, this is what would be best for the users, but we can't do it because of X, Y, Z. Right. And so, an example there is like, we're fixing some piece of the notes section right now in ZenMaid that we very consciously made the decision before of, we knew that this was going to be a less than ideal experience the entire time that it's been live. but the delay and the amount of resources that it would have taken at the time for us to make the ideal user experience, it just wasn't a trade-off that we could make. So we made that decision, and now we're revisiting it, and now we're coming back to it to make like the decision in the best interest of the users, right? And so really it doesn't determine our decisions, but it's a very big factor in how we think about different things that we have to do in the business, if that makes sense.
It does, but I honestly don't know how I would picture those three ones, like, employee, company, clients for you. Um, now, here's the funny thing is I may not know it, but my action probably determine it, right?
Okay.
So I would probably need to do an introspection into what are my actions to figure out, like, what am I really, thinking? Because it's always having like one talk, like saying like, oh, my clients are like the most important thing, in the world or whatever. Then you realize actually you treat them like shit. You don't do their requests. You don't whatever. And then it's like there's a misalignment between what you say and what you do. And then here, I honestly don't know. I know that if we don't have any company, we can't serve our clients. But at the same time, if we don't have any clients, well, we don't have any company. So it's like one of those things. I'm not like entirely sure. It may be on a case-by-case basis, right?
It's probably case by case, but it's not black and white. Like saying that I'm going company first doesn't mean that you have no clients or no happy clients. Like they all three have to be good enough, or the business doesn't exist at all.
I believe you probably end up with something like Enron, right? If you go a company first, which means your company will start cheating or whatever, and then that's on the company will collapse one way or another.
I don't think that's true. I think there's plenty of people that can be upfront about putting their company first and not be scam artists. I think that Enron is a very, very extreme example. Like I think, yeah, because like I think about a lot of like
WeWork as well. Same stuff. The company goes first.
Right? Yeah, that's a good one. That's
and I don't think Amazon is not the company goes first, for sure not. So it's I don't think. Well, I don't think. Okay, let's put it this way: any of those three in isolation just doesn't work. You can't just have employee and no clients and no company.
Yeah, right? they all have to be good enough.
So you have to have some level, right? And then after that, it's more like a tweaking, maybe. Like a bit more of that versus that, but it's interesting. I'm not entirely sure. Right?
I think it's built into the culture or whatever from a very like early point. I don't think it's as much like tweaking. I think that you have to build all three like at once, but I think everyone has a focus kind of like initially that at some point kind of develops into like the lead sort of thing, whether that's a focus on company or employees or on clients, right?
It's funny, if I'm actually trying that introspection of my action, I think my words will say the company first, but I think my action actually put the client first. Like,
I would say you put the clients first. I would say it's client, company, employees for you.
Client, company, employees. It could be, but also, one of the things that makes me the happiest is effectively my employee actually growing up. And so it's kind of awkward.
Well, that's one where, yeah, I mean, it's worth thinking about. Like,
well, I think you're right in a sense that, for example, if the company needs to fire me to get a better CEO, then I would have zero problem with that. I guess that's probably what you would put the company first instead of the employee.
Well, yeah,
it's tough, right?
Well, no, not really. Like, I don't really see how, when you look at kind of like how you've like built the team and like the people that you've gone through and like and everything. Now I think you're beginning to build like a team, and I think you like the idea of having a team. But I think that when we look at kind of your patience or lack thereof with like some of the previous hires and stuff, I don't think that you can make an argument that you put the employees like first, right? So, or not first, like ahead of the others, right? Like, I do yeah, honestly, to me, putting employees last for you is more about like that than it is about putting the other ones ahead. But like from what I've seen, it always stood out to me from like the very, very beginning of how much you put your clients first. So to me, in my mind, it's very clear that it's clients first for you, and employees last, and therefore company has to go like in the center. It's not as much like, that like the company is, like I'm not really thinking about it as much in terms of like the company, right? It's just I know that you put your users first from having talked to you since like 2013 and everything, and I've always found
Yeah,
that very
absolutely.
like impressive about you, right?
Yeah, it is possible. I don't like the sound of it but I think it is possible. Hmm.
Well, I mean, I think the other thing is that you've grown a lot, right? Like when we look at all the changes that you've made and like the patience that you now have with your team, and that you've gone through the process, you found all like the people, and now you're beginning to surround yourself like with the team. I think that like by the minute, by the week, you are beginning to become more and more kind of employee oriented. But if you look at it from like day one,
No, but day
I
one, I
would.
didn't have a company, right? I had only one job with two assistants. That's how I picture it, right?
Well, but the whole
So
thing is that like even looking at how long it took you to start building a team, that to me I think also says something, right? Is that you were very focused on
you're
the
right.
users and on building the company, and then you pushed it way back, and then finally started hiring, right? Think about how much later you started hiring versus like me.
True,
So
and
if
a
you're
lot of
looking at,
hmm.
yeah, if you're
No,
looking
no,
at
that's true.
actions, right? Like I
Yeah, you're
started
right.
hiring maybe before it was responsible to do that for my clients. I was hiring mainly in the best interest of the company, which is why for me, I would say that it's employees, company, and then clients, right?
Okay, that's interesting. What other company in the world do you think? Okay, so you will
Yeah,
say we basically reverse employee and clients,
which
right?
is really interesting.
Which
Like, and
is
there's no
super
right way.
interesting. No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, of course, and like we say, like we both fired happily clients because we don't like them,
Hmm.
right? But that's true that I created a product to help the user of that product. That's
Hmm.
really the aim in mind,
Yeah.
and that's what keeps me at
Yeah.
night. At the same time, like I mentioned, with the employee grid and some of the personal development that I'm putting effort into
Hmm.
it, so there are a lot of focus also on the
Yeah.
employee. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's newer than it used to be. It
Hmm.
wasn't like that for a long time.
Yeah.
So okay, so I would agree with that statement. Now, can we actually find companies that are actually more in our model? Like, would you effectively say that Amazon is employee company clients, or oh sorry, clients are company employee, or is it client employee company? No, I'm not sure. What would be Amazon, you think?
Employees has to be last.
Okay.
Amazon treats their employees like shit. It has to be last. Has to be last. There's absolutely no chance that they put their employees, above anything else. There's a reason that Jeff Bezos gets booed by his own employees when he gives
Okay.
like talks in
Makes sense.
Germany. Um,
That's
yeah,
fine.
it's a really hard one to say between, like, because to me Amazon wins so much as a company because of their insane focus on like the end client, but sometimes I wonder,
If it's worth, or if
no,
it's
no, 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 not if it's worth it, but like everything from Bezos is so calculated that I have a hard time always going like that he's acting out of the best interest of the customer because he's acting in their best interest, or if he thinks he's actually acting in the
yeah,
company's
okay.
best interest in a really long run. So for me, it's very much tied for Amazon, right? Um,
What
it's
would
a tough one.
what would you say for Netflix?
Netflix would be.
I would think it's company. Well, that's tough to know.
Yeah, it's
I'm
it's a tough one because
Well, they could also be like, 30, 33, 33, 33, right? It is also a
yeah,
ratio. Like, even if you
that's a
say
good
like
point.
employees lies for me, it's definitely not 0%. Like, I really
Yeah,
consider
exactly,
and love
exactly.
my employees, right?
Hmm.
So it's not like it's 0% either. It's more like when the choice and the tough decision has to be made. I think that's right. I think you're right. That's exactly it. When there is a tough, consideration to be made versus someone losing his job and it's a problem, or the company being in danger by having this person in, then the choice is easily made. It's a company that wins, right?
Hmm.
And when the choice is being made between a client having a problem or the company, no, I think the company also wins. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's company for me first. I don't know,
Hmm.
because I'm thinking like if there is no company, there's nothing. right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that that's taking it to like to extremes, because I wouldn't do anything for my customers if it was going to risk the company.
Exactly,
Right. Like
right.
just period. Like, I don't care how much I can help you, or like,
That's
or
right.
whatever.
And
I'm not
probably the
risking my
same
company
with
over
an
this.
employee too, right? If the employee was at
Yeah.
risk of making the company, fail,
Yeah.
then you will say bye.
Yeah, well, so the whole thing is like, so, like,
Maybe it's all flawed.
well, but
Well,
by
free
that
fates
metric,
doesn't work.
but yeah, by that metric, every company is going to be company first,
First,
right?
yeah, that's
So
right. It doesn't
yeah,
work. You're right.
like, so I don't think that when you take that
Oh,
extreme an
no,
example,
no,
that
no,
it's
no, no.
helpful.
No, Uber was not company first because you had sexist things going on and they knew it was a big problem for the company, but they carried on anyway. It wasn't company first.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I think
No.
that's a big stretch. Just because shitty things happen in your company, and like they continue to happen, doesn't mean that you're not like
But
company
they didn't
first.
let
Like,
the employee go. That's the point, right?
well, yeah, but okay, I think we're talking about really extreme situations
Wow,
here.
you're
Like,
right.
yeah,
Plus, it may be a different component, which is like, I don't know, making money or whatever that was
yeah,
more involved than
yeah.
personal
Well,
greed
and
than it
and
was.
the actually the other thing, and this is going to make it even more complicated, is we're talking about company employees like clients, but Uber has investors, company clients,
You're right.
drivers, right? Like, they've got five different people, like five different
You're
groups
right.
of people that they have to prioritize, which just makes every decision that much more complicated, right?
That's a fair
um
point. We have it easy, honestly.
yeah
As
yeah
bootstrapper, we have it easy that way,
exactly.
right?
Well, no,
It's like we
that's
have to
actually,
be
that's really true.
profitable, full stop.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
there's no money
exactly.
otherwise.
And it
Um,
simplifies a lot of our decisions,
that's
right? Like, a
right.
lot of our decisions are actually a lot easier. It can be harder to execute, or there's a smaller market to go after, but the complexity of decisions that like WeWork has to make and Uber has to make, it's just on a completely like different level, you know?
Fair
So
point.
yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting one, because then you get into it and you go, okay, well, every Silicon Valley startup that has all of these like startup like perks and everything, are they actually like employee centered, or are they just doing that because they need that to get like those employees, right? Like, if that's the norm across all the
But
companies in that
but but that
area,
but that
then
but
is it
I
employee
agree. It is
centric?
employee focused first. It would be employee focused first, no matter the reason behind it, because the reason behind it is to have your company working anyway, right?
Yeah,
Or maybe provide
true.
jobs for people. But I don't think that any of the startups in Silicon Valley are doing this for providing jobs to people, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that wouldn't work.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
In
Yeah.
fact, the company that are actually doing that just to provide work, they're like, it's like they become acting as charity stuff, and I think that's counterproductive to the capitalist type of model. Like, I don't think
Mm,
it will last very long. Like, you will hire maybe your brother, your sister, even though they're bad at doing their job, just to provide them with a job. And I think the whole thing won't work anyway. It wouldn't be a meritocracy anymore. And then you'll have like people like a Peter principle everywhere, like people at their
mm,
last level of incompetence,
mm.
highest level of incompetence.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that works either. Like,
Yeah, interesting.
but again, it's like super extremes, of course.
Mhm.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting discussion. Um, yeah, yeah, it
Okay, well,
is.
let me. Well, I don't know if this is a good conversation to start having, but you know, because we're only talking about like massive extreme. That would be, would you prefer to have your customer or have your team? It's just like those sort of question will be like pretty bad to have, but that's probably the idea. And then, would you prefer half the growth of your company or half? I don't know. I don't know if this is a healthy
Yeah.
exercise at all. I don't think it
Well,
helps
I think
anyway,
I think I think
but it's funny.
because you're talking about extremes, most of the answers are like pretty obvious, or just like not possible to define,
You're
right? So
right.
between half the customers and half the team, like, I'm going to pick half the team, obviously, because I'm not going to cut my business in half and then have the same expenses, right? Like, from a company
Hey,
standpoint, that's
company is
suicide,
first. No, I'm
right?
kidding. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, no, that would make the company
yeah,
first, but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
of course, like, that's the whole thing. Is like, if you're at an extreme where it's like you've got to pick, something, and in one case it means that the company goes under, and in the other then it doesn't, then you're that's the
Yeah, yeah.
decision that you're making. It doesn't matter what the actual decision is. The decision is, do I want the company to survive or not, right? So it's like,
Yeah, it's
I'm
funny
not
in a
running a
sense,
charity.
but I think one of the important thing is that there is no real
Mhm.
playbook, right? It's like
Yeah,
anyone who actually is a founder gets to decide, what type of order of priorities they
yeah,
are. Yeah,
absolutely.
I
Because
do. Yeah.
I always
No.
thought that was a big dichotomy between us, as I've known for a long time that you're much more customer focused and customer centric than we were like at ZenMaid. And that had a lot to do like with our limitations and stuff, but it also had to do with like with our standards and all of that stuff that like I was just like my focus when I started the company, it was not really to help people. Like helping people was what I had to do in order to build a company and to make money and to kind of,
It's
get like
funny.
the lifestyle that I have now. And then as I got further and further into the company, now it's much more like, I enjoy waking up and helping people. I'm fulfilled by having the team surrounding me. Like I see all of them growing daily and like making more money. And so my motivations have changed a lot, right? But you could see that in the very
Yeah.
beginning of just the amount of effort that you went into, or like the way that you treat bugs that are introduced into the system that you're like, that's completely unacceptable. And I'm like, there's a workaround. I don't care if that's broken in the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have more important things to work on. That's very clearly
Yeah,
me
and you
putting.
don't know all the things that I've done specifically for a few customers that I like,
Mhm.
and I wanted to help, right?
Yeah, which
Actually, I did it
yeah.
last week. One of our
Mhm.
customer came in the system and say, "Oh man, I can't really search based on this and this." And I was like, I'll do it. And I did it like one evening, just like, okay, I
Mm,
have to do, I didn't put it on my team because I didn't want to stress them more with more stuff,
yep.
but I did it nonetheless, because I
Mhm.
thought it would be something cool for the customer. So yeah, I
Yep.
think that makes sense. But here's the interesting thing that you mentioned is like, as we're evolving, those sort of thing actually get smooth around the edge
Mhm.
and less
Yeah.
extreme. And I think
Mhm.
that's exactly the thing. So you become, like you mentioned, more, customer focused, and I become more employee focused. So
Mhm.
it's like, so
Exactly. It's
that's an
as we
interesting one.
grow, yeah. It's as we grow, as we like mature, and then also, I mean, I think that's necessary, right? Like, I don't think that
I agree.
ZenMaid would be successful if I hadn't shifted my focus more to like to the customers, But it's like, we had to get to a certain point, both with the team and at a company level, before I felt like I had kind of like the headspace to really like do that. Because if we had spent all of our time actually focusing on like building like a product that was perfect for like each individual user, we would have never made like any progress. Like we had to push buggy stuff in order to get new features out there, and then we come back and fix them. Whereas for you, I mean, you compared to Arun when I started the company, you were like probably a 10, 20, 100x developer compared to him. And that shows in your approach, right? So it does have a lot to do with like our abilities that, even with the best of intentions, I don't think that I could have built a successful company by following the standards that you had, because you were able to execute like on your standards to such an insanely high level, right? And I think anyone that's used both of our software, which is pretty much no one, would definitely see that, right? And hopefully you can't tell as much now because we've put in a ton of time to making our software beautiful and work perfectly and like all this stuff. But yeah,
So I think, okay, a very interesting discussion. I think that sort of opened the door to another discussion, maybe or future podcast, as
mm-hmm.
to founder, complementing with your team and your
Mm,
founder. Like, should you have effectively the same sort of like focus,
yeah,
or should we actually complement each other that way?
I think that's a great one. I can tell you the answer is it depends, but that's going to be an entire episode on its
You
own.
spoiled it. You spoiled it.
Oh, I guess you guys
All
don't have to go watch the next one.
right. All right, awesome. Well, thanks, Sama. Oh, yeah. Do the end pitch.
Yes. If you are on Twitter, you should follow me. It's just Amar. Follow Jeremy at J Chatelain. If you're not on Twitter, get your life together. Get on it.
Get your life together.
Or just follow us elsewhere. You can find Jeremy at quickmail.io. Do you have a personal website or no? Just your business?
You know what? I stopped as soon as I had my own company.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Simple
Well,
as that. It's like I didn't feel the need anymore.
okay. I have theamericandream.com if you guys want to go check that out. I'll actually be doing, maybe we can even just publish it through this feed, since we have 3 listeners now. But one of my team members wants to do like a four episode like deep dive into like our summit strategies and stuff.
Oh, that'd be
And
fun.
she was like, we should record that and just put it somewhere because it'll help people. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll have
why
a
not?
discussion with you about that and record it. So yeah, I mean, actually, maybe you'd want to be on there like with us, Jeremy. You
Yeah,
might have
I'd
interesting
love to
questions and
destroy
stuff.
everything, of course.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be
Put
like, we're
everything
gonna be
under fire.
yeah, look at our results, Jeremy, and you're just gonna be like, not good enough. So that'll be good. We'll step up our game. So all right.
I may learn a few things. I'm delighted about it. Okay, sounds great.
Awesome.
Catch you later.